There are so many different eye shapes, and all of them have their positive things, and all of them also have their unique challenges when it comes to makeup application. Understanding your eye shape and knowing how to bring out the beauty in it is the key, okay? It is the key to looking amazing in your makeup. Today we're gonna focus specifically on one eye shape, and that is the hooded mature eye, because I know that that's an eye shape that a lot of you really struggle with, but I'm telling you, okay, it doesn't have to be such a challenge. It really doesn't. In this video, I'm gonna show you some simple tricks and techniques that will really bring the beauty out of your hooded eye. Let's go. So let's talk about the unique characteristics of a hooded eye first, because in order to learn how to work with it, we really do need to actually understand it. So all eye shapes have three parts, okay? Let's really simplify it. These are the three main parts you need to know. You have your eyelid, right? Then you have the crease, and then you have your brow bone, which is right here. When you open your eyes and you look straight into the mirror, the amount of eyelid skin that shows is gonna vary depending on what's happening in the crease, what's happening with the skin right here. So hooded eyes are characterized by an extra layer of skin that droops over the crease of the eyelid, making the eyelid space appear smaller, or it could even make it disappear entirely when the eyes are open. So there are people who are born with hooded eyes as an eye shape, right? Or it's the eye shape of their ethnicity. That's obviously a big thing too. But there are also people whose eyes become hooded with time, or it could be a combination of all of those things, right? You could be born with a more hooded shape that then becomes progressively more and more hooded as you get older. So let's keep all of this in mind, because that's gonna affect how we do the makeup. Let's get started with our prep. A big thank you to City Beauty for sponsoring this part of the video. So the first thing I did was go in with the City Beauty lid lifting treatment. If you struggle with a loss of firmness on the lids, this is the best product ever. It is so good to use under makeup. So what this cream does is it smooths everything out and gives the eyelids this like instant, tighter, more lifted look. And you'll actually feel that when you put it on your eyelids. I gave this to my mom because she's struggling with that. And she's like, wow, you can actually feel it really firming up instantly, right? So it's the perfect thing to use under makeup. It's almost like an iron. That's the only way I can describe it. It irons out the wrinkles on your eyelids, and it reduces the look of drooping, sagging lines, all of the things that make makeup application really challenging. The way that you use it is you just apply a small amount and you tap it onto the eyelids morning and night. If you're using it in the morning, then you just want to give it about a minute to set before you put your eye makeup on. I actually have a discount code for you guys. So City Beauty gave me a discount code, which is amazing. So if you want to try it, you can use my code GLAMGABBY15 and you will get 50% off site-wide. If you've been curious about the City Beauty products, just because I talk about them so much, right, in sponsored and non-sponsored videos, now's a great time to try it out. They have a lot of really awesome, different, unique, very effective products. So you can find the links in the description box below. So while that lid lifting treatment is setting, we can move on to step number 2, and that's to make sure that the brows are really well groomed. So we don't want to over pluck the brows, because a thin brow is definitely not in style right now, okay? It's gonna make you look outdated. I hate to say that because, you know, trends come and go, but if you have a really thin brow at this moment in history, it does look outdated, because you can pinpoint an era in history based on how the brows are done. So this is the era of the full natural brow, okay? But that doesn't mean completely ignoring them either, okay? Because hooded eyes tend to look smaller, we really want to open up the space from the lash line to the brow bone as much as possible while staying within the natural shape. So we're really plucking the strays to open up and clean up this whole zone. Once they're nice and groomed and we've got as much space as we can while staying natural, right? We can then go in and fill in the brows. So what I'm doing right now to fill in brows, I've implemented a new technique and I've made an entire video about it. What I do is I really like gelling the brows to organize the hairs first, and then I look and see where hairs are missing, and I strategically sketch one hair at a time in those missing zones. So for Jill, my beautiful model's name is Jill, I actually groomed her brows with Anastasia Beverly Hills brow gel, and then After that, I could see where we're having a little bit of hollowness. And then I went in with the Maybelline brow pen, which is actually really amazing. She brought it into the studio. I had never tried it before. It's excellent. I often use Glossier Brow Flick. I use one by Melt Cosmetics as well. That's the one I used on myself today. But this one by Maybelline is a great price and it works really, really well. Just make sure when you are drawing your strokes that you are drawing them in the direction that they grow. So at the front, they grow up, so you want to draw up. And then once you get over here to the sides, you want to draw on a bit of an angle. And then here they grow a little bit downwards, right? So just follow the natural growth of your brows. If you want a really detailed tutorial on that, then I'm going to leave a link to that video pinned in the pinned comment for you, and you can watch that next. Now we can move on to priming. So this is the thing. With other eye shapes, I often go in with concealer and I set it with a powder and then I go in with my eyeshadows. That's typically how I prime a lot of lids. And I don't find primers to be very necessary most of the time. But when it comes to a hooded eye, I do encourage you to invest in an eyelid primer. And the reason is because we have natural oils on our eyelids, and when we open and close our eyes a lot, those oils end up breaking down makeup. Now, when you have a double fold or really hooded eye, or the skin is falling over it, that skin is kind of touching the lash line. So as the day goes on, you know, at first it might be fine, but as the day goes on, those natural oils might start breaking up your makeup. So it might start breaking up your mascara. It might start breaking up your liner. And you're gonna start getting a lot of issues with creasing, and you might also get some issues with your makeup not lasting. So you can get an eyelid primer for this. When you apply an eyelid primer, you just wanna go from the lash line all the way up to the brow bone, and then you wanna lightly dust some powder over it. Lid primers still typically have a bit of a tacky feel because they're cream, right? They're always cream based. So you wanna dry the cream down so that when you then put your shadows on top, it's blendable and it's not gonna stick and you're not gonna get those big blotchy areas in the eye zone. So primer from lash line up to brow bone, lightly dust a powder on it, and then you are kind of guaranteeing that you minimize your creasing by a lot. You minimize transfer, you know, liner transfer, mascara transfer by a lot. And you're also kind of guaranteeing that your makeup lasts a lot longer throughout the day. Okay, now we can move on to the fun stuff, and that is placing shadows. All of that stuff before was really important, but now we get into the artistry, right? The best part. So this is what we're going to do. Because a hooded eye, the zones of the eye kind of blend together, right? You don't have a definitive hood. You can't really see the lid very much anymore. It's all like one space. We're going to create the illusion of the three spaces, the brow bone, the crease, and the lid, with highlight and contour using shadows. So the very first thing you are gonna do is you take a nice fluffy crease brush, one that's quite diffuse. I'll leave a list of every brush used and where I use them in the description, okay? I just wanna emphasize that because I know you guys get flustered with that because you want specifics. It's all gonna be there. So you wanna take that nice fluffy crease brush and you wanna dip into a mid-tone matte shadow. Now this is what we call the transition shade, okay? The transition shade is the first shade used in the crease, and it's typically a little bit deeper than your skin tone. So it's gonna be different for everyone. So this is the one that I used in the Makeup by Mario palette. This is the new palette from Makeup by Mario, so it has cooler tones. But again, you don't have to use this specific palette. You can use any palette you have, as long as you find a mid-tone shadow that's about 2 shades deeper than your skin tone. You're gonna start creating a little bit of a shadow, but it's gonna be subtle enough that you can blend shadows on top of it and it's going to become the seamless transition. Transition shades are very important. They're often skipped. If you were to go in with a darker shadow right away in the crease, you wouldn't have the base shadow to blend on. It wouldn't look as professional, like a professional makeup artist did it, as if you do it this way. Now for Jill, I'm only gonna do one eye, okay? I'm doing one side of her face only so that you can actually see what a difference these techniques make and how much it opens her eyes and lifts up her face. So we buffed that transition shade in and it's just looking like a very soft shadow. So we are receding that crease as much as we can. Okay, now I grabbed another crease brush, okay? And I dipped into a deeper color. So it's about 1 shade, maybe 2 shades deeper. Now we're really gonna start creating that shadow. I grabbed a smaller crease brush for this because with hooded eyes, we typically, not always, but typically have less space. So you want the crease brush to fit into the space without blasting the space up. You know, brushes are super important. You really need to find the ones that fit into your individual eye shape the best. So this one is a really good size for a lot of hooded eyes. Again, it's gonna be linked. You wanna dip into that matte shade. Again, it's a little bit deeper. And then you're going to start carving out that crease. So if you look at what I'm doing here, I'm actually stamping the shadow into the crease to build up the pigment. If I were to just swipe, it'd be very diffused. So I'm stamp, 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 I'm building up pigment, and then I'm blending it out. You can already see that we are creating a very definitive change from the lid to the crease. Now it's very obvious that this is the crease, this is the lid, whereas before when she just opened her eyes, you couldn't see that definition quite as clearly, right? This is highlight and contour at its finest, okay? This is why every artist is so obsessed with highlight and contour techniques, because it completely changes the way that the eye perceives shapes. Okay, it's really powerful. Now we have to go into the highlight part. So do you guys know where we highlight? Let me know in the comments right now. Let me know if you know. We want to highlight the lid. So we want the lid to become prominent, the crease to recede back. So we're creating the illusion that the eye isn't hooded at all. So for this, again, you want to use something that's really light. Now here you can use a shimmer shadow if you wanted to, but I wanted to keep it really super classic. I wanted to keep this very highlight contour classic tutorial. So we just went in with a matte shade, and you can see this color is almost like a bone color. So then I just pressed that into the lid. So from the lid to the crease where that shading is, I connected it there, and I used a flat lid shader brush for that. Again, this is very important. So a crease brush has a domey shape and it fits into the crease. The lid brushes have a flatter shape and they pack more shadow on. So you really do want to get a lid brush for the lid and a crease brush for the crease. If you only have 2 brushes for all of your eye looks, those are the brushes to get, because those 2 things are very important. They will create an array of different looks for you. Okay, now we can define the lash line. Now this is tricky for hooded eyes because when you add depth to the lash line, because the lash line and the crease kind of combine, you can all of a sudden close the eye up. Dark colors make things smaller, right? They close things up. So if we take a black liner and we line the whole thing, the eye will be, whoop, it will go right back to being tiny. So what I did is I actually used a nice dark brown liner instead to keep it softer. Okay, you can still use a black liner, but a brown liner will be much softer. But the key here, the one thing you need to know if you have hooded eyes, is that the line needs to be as skinny as you can possibly make it. So one technique is to do a tight line where you go and you paint underneath the eyelid and you don't paint on the eyelid at all. That's one technique that will bring attention and bring definition to the eyes without closing them up. But another thing you can do is take a very, very tight, precise angle brush. You can take your angle brush, you can put it on your liner, and you can use your angled brush to sketch. And when you are sketching this line, you're kind of sketching in between the lashes. You don't want to go too above the lashes. You don't want to close up that lid. So just go in between the lashes and you'll have so much more control if you do it with a brush that's made specifically for that than if you go in with an actual pencil, which tends to have a more bulbous tip. Now you can stop here, okay? You can curl your lashes, apply mascara, you're good. But I wanted to give you guys a bonus step, because I feel like now that you've been with me for a while and you're my family, we're crossing over into more advanced territory, okay? And if you are new and you haven't been here for a while, please say hi in the comments, because I really love getting to know my new subscribers, and hit that subscribe button. It really, really does help me grow. And give this video a like if you like it, or a dislike if you don't. All of that really helps me know what to make and what not to make. So for those of you who have been here for a while, for those of you that want more advanced techniques, this is one of them, okay? So if we want to deepen this more, if we want more smokiness to this look, and when Jill came into the studio, she told me, she's like, I want a smoky eye. And I was like, oh, that's not the tutorial we're doing today, but I'm gonna give it to you anyway. So if you wanna deepen this look up more, you can take a very teeny tiny little crease brush. So this is a dome-shaped brush for the crease, but it's tiny. And what a tiny brush will do, it will put more pigment on the area. It will diffuse less, so it'll be a punchier pigment. What you wanna do is take that crease brush, dip it into a really dark color in the color family you're working in. So in this case, it was a really nice dark brown. And then I just went in and I deepened out that outer third of the eye. So not the middle, not starting at the middle. I kind of started out in here and I deepened this up in like a triangle shape to smoke it out. So when her eyes were open, they looked more smoky. They looked less natural and a little bit more glam, right? Because that was the vibe she wanted. And I like doing things that make people feel happy. Now the next step is to clean up under the eyes. I know this is boring and I tell you guys this in all the videos. You want to do the eye makeup first because no matter what you do, even if it's something very simple, you will inevitably get fallout. It doesn't matter what shadow you're using or how good that shadow is, you're gonna get fallout. The way that I like cleaning up under the eyes is just taking a pointed Q-tip, dipping it in moisturizer, and then swiping it over. The moisturizer is gonna act like an eraser. It's gonna pick up that pigment. Now, the really good thing is that if you want to give yourself a lift in the corner of the eyes, you want to like snatch up your eyes and create like an instant facelift, you can take that pointed Q-tip and you can drag it up to clean up and lift the whole shadow line. It's amazing what this does, okay? If you struggle with winged liner, if you struggle with all of that, you can do it in a messy way and then just tighten it up with a Q-tip and some moisturizer. And while you're doing that, you're prepping the under eye skin as well. Now, step 9 is to brighten under the eyes. Of course, when we are doing any type of eye, if we really want it to look impressive, we need to brighten under the eye. So I just went in with some concealer and I set it very lightly with some translucent powder and I moved right into the lashes. Now, lashes with hooded eyes is very important. It will lift the eyes up significantly. So one way to do that is to get a really, really great mascara. This one's by City Beauty. It really gives kind of a false lash effect. It bulks up even the thinnest, finest lashes, which is amazing. But another way to do it, if you want to elevate it for evening, is to go in with falsies. And I know falsies is everyone loves to hate them because they can be quite annoying. But when it comes to a hooded eye, if you want something that is very impressive, like next level, holy smokes, you look amazing, lashes make a big, big difference. Okay, so on Jill today, I use these beautiful lashes by Velour. These are quite expensive. They're luxury lashes. They do last a really long time, which is great. You can reuse them a lot. I just lifted up her lid to give me as much space as I could and I popped those on. And then I went in and tight lined underneath with black for added definition and also to blend the lash line out. This lash line, this velour lash line, it's got a black rim to it, okay? It's not an invisible band. I don't love that. I like an invisible band better, but this one has a black band. So if you pop your lashes on and you notice that they suddenly stop in the corners, you need to kind of connect it. So the way that I connected it was by tight lining because I didn't want to add black to that lid, again, because I didn't want to close the lid space up. Finally, as our last step, I really like to tie the whole look in together. One way that I find you can get the eyes to look really big is to take that transition shade that you used first, or to take that second shade, that kind of contour shade, and put it under the eyes to smoke out the bottom lash line. A lot of people feel like this will close up the eyes. This will not close up the eyes unless you're using a lot of black liner, right? Like heavy black. If you're using a transition shade, it's actually going to kind of round out and open the eyes quite a bit. When you're smoking under the eyes, you want to use a smudging brush, which is a really dense little wide brush. That's my favorite brush to smoke under the eyes always. And just make sure you are blending that all the way out. And then I went in and did her foundation, her blush, and her lips and all that, only on half the face. And you can see here, you guys, look at Jill's eyes. Look at how lifted they look. Look at how big they look. And look at how much of a separation now she has between her lid and her crease. And yet it's still quite natural, right? It still looks quite natural, very defined, very finished, but not over the top. She could easily wear this during the day You know, even if we took away the last smoky eye step where I added a little bit of extra to the outside of the eye, if we took that away, it could easily be, you know, a daytime look that is just super polished and pretty. So here is what Jill looked like when she came into the studio wearing her own makeup. This is how she typically does her makeup. This is what she looks like with no makeup on. Pay attention to her eyes here, her beautiful, beautiful blue eyes. Take a look at how they look. And then this is how she looked after I finished both sides of her face. And she was wearing a really beautiful, glam, defined, and very highly contoured eye makeup look. She felt really great, and that's all that matters to me. Okay, you ready?
Trying to do the big reveal. So you can put on your...
Feel free to put on your glasses.
My goodness, that is unbelievable. Wow, it looks amazing. Oh my gosh.
I'll show you with a little mirror.
Wow, I look like amazing.
Where you going, bro? Gotta hit the town now.
The eyes, crazy, stunning. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome.
It was so awesome.
Oh my gosh. Thank you
so
for
awesome.
coming. I really appreciate that you came all this way.
Oh, it was such a pleasure. I was looking so forward to it.
It was fun.
It was.
You're happy?
I love it.
I'm so glad. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I really, really appreciate having you here. This video's over.